Artem Lobov. It's been quite some time since we talked to Artem. He's joining us now via the magical Skype. There he is, the Russian Hammer himself. Where have you been, Artem?
All good. How are you doing, Ariel? I've just been here in Ireland training my ass off.
Okay, well, welcome back, my friend. It's great to talk to you. It's great to have you back on the show. Let's start here. The last time we saw you in action was several months ago, and after the fight, it did seem like you were sort of teasing that maybe you would walk away. Did you ever seriously consider retiring after your last fight?
I didn't really. I more so meant maybe a change of sport. It's a kind of difficult position to be in where I actually have other options. I have offers from K1 promotions. I had boxing offers. I have offers from other MMA organizations. I could go back into banking. So that it's kind of a difficult situation. Obviously, I'm always a realist. I assess the situation realistically. I obviously love MMA and I enjoy fighting. I love fighting. But sometimes if I see perhaps maybe, a change of profession is in order, or maybe I could go into a different sport, like Conor did before. So that was kind of, that tweet was about that more than anything. I wasn't going to retire completely because I don't think I could actually do that if I want to, because as long as I know I'm healthy and I'm able to fight, my heart, there's just a fire in my heart that burns, and it just, makes me want to get into that octagon and throw it down. I absolutely love doing it. So I don't really see myself being able to fully retire, but I just sort of was hinting at perhaps change of sport or profession or whatnot.
You didn't really consider banking, though. I can't see the Russian Hammer banking.
When you're kind of lose a fight and you're at a very low point, strange things go through your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, when I kind of reassess it and think about it a little bit more, banking is probably the last thing on my mind. But
okay, so how close to leaving MMA were you, and focusing on kickboxing or boxing?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I messaged the UFC, and I told them, I said, look, guys, I understand, the position I'm in, if I get cut here, I completely understand what's happening. It's going to be a fair decision, and I will take it. On the chin, it's probably I wouldn't be happy about it, but what can you do? It's a fair decision. I mean, many people have been kept in my situation. There's multiple examples.
Yeah.
But also many have been cut. So if I was to get cut, I would understand it, and that would be fine with me.
Did they respond and say why they were keeping you, or were you left in the dark? How did it go down?
Yeah, the UFC just responded, and they just said no, they were happy to keep me. I always bring it. I don't turn down fights. I'm easy to deal with. Whatever guy they want me to fight, it's a yes from me. I don't bitch and moan about anything. And I'm a true fighter, and the fans love watching my fights. If you look at most of the other guys that are kind of outside of, let's say, top 15, you rarely hear anything about them, whether they get cut or whatever. You don't even notice that. Whereas I seem to be one of the guys that people pay attention to, whether it's to do with my friendship with Conor. Yeah, it probably definitely plays a big part. Whether it's to do with my 3 knockouts on the Ultimate Fighter, that probably has a part in it as well. Or whether it's because, I'm able to eat a head kick and stand up like nothing happened and continue pressing forward and throwing down. That probably has something to do with it also. It's in reality, it's probably a combination of all those things. But, the truth of the matter is people watch my fights. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. You can be the best guy in the world, but if no one wants to see you fight, well, then there's no money to be made.
Considering all that, are you surprised that they kept you, or not really?
To be honest, not really. Like I said, there are multiple examples out there where people have been kept. And also, given the fact that, I'm on a 2-fight losing streak, but one of the losses was a fight of the night performance against a top 4 opponent, so that's a big task in itself. And then the last fight itself wasn't that bad either. It wasn't fight of the night or anything, but it still was a good, exciting fight. There was a lot of exchanges, and fans can expect to see more of that now that I'm still in the UFC.
Um, so you are given another chance. You're fighting April 7th in Brooklyn, UFC 223 against Alex Caceres. I know you say you don't turn down anything, and you don't. But when you were presented this opportunity, did you like this fight? Did you like the card? Did you like the location? Did you like the opponent?
I certainly love this card. Yeah, I mean, New York, who wouldn't want to fight in Brooklyn, New York? And the opponent, of course, I mean, Alex, I've known him for quite some time now. He's a very unorthodox guy, but he's gotten a lot more. He wrestles a lot more in his last few fights, and that probably is due to the fact that he's dropped a few decision losses where guys just kind of out wrestle him and just score a lot of points. So he probably seen how many points takedown score. So that's what he does nowadays, a lot more. But I was certainly happy with the matchup. He's a small enough guy because he made bantamweight before, so that tells me he mustn't be that big of a featherweight. He doesn't really have a knockout punch, so that's always good. Not that that ever mattered for
Right.
me before, but still, it's a good one. So I feel he's quite open. And I think there's going to be openings there for me to catch him and land some nice shots and produce another interesting fight.
Can we clear up the Zabit thing once and for all? Because from what I understand, you were okay with the fight, but he concedes that, but he says that your coaching staff said no to the fight. You guys squared off at an event in Russia, I do believe. There was a picture that went out. What were you offered a fight against Zabit, and what was your response when you were offered this fight?
Okay, I think the first thing we need to clear up here is that anything that Zabit's manager says, we cannot take it seriously. I mean, I
Okay.
think that's a fair point at this point. I think that's a pretty fair point. I mean, that guy, I to be honest with you, I hate seeing managers talk so much shit. If you're not the guy getting in there answering for your words, then keep your mouth shut. That's my view on that. Any other fighter can say something to me if they're willing to get in there with me and throw down and answer for their words. And I always feel the same way whenever I say something about another fighter. If he is to challenge me to a fight, I will accept it. I will step into that octagon and I will answer for my words. So that gives me the right to say what I want to say. But the manager doesn't have that right. So the
You're talking about
situation was
Ali
I've asked
Abdelaziz,
for
right?
that fight.
Just to be clear for the
Of
viewers at
course,
home.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I've asked Sean Shelby on a number of occasions for that fight. I've messaged him personally saying, look, I want that fight. His management wanted, I wanted, let's make it happen. And it hasn't happened. I mean, I can see why the UFC, let's say, want to give him somebody else. Maybe, I'm on 2 losses now. He's on 2 wins. So, he's on a different path right now. I need to get back into the winning ways. So I can see that. But as far as my management or my team or anybody turning down a fight, that is complete bullshit. I have never in my life turned down a fight, never, and I never will. And my management, my coaches, they're well aware of that. So
Okay.
that was absolute crap.
So you said yes, and for whatever reason, it was the UFC's decision to not make the fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you upset that you're not getting the
As
fight?
far as I know, I sent a message saying I won the fight for this like multiple times. This wasn't the first time, and I just didn't. They said no to Zabit. They said, but we'll get you somebody else.
Okay.
Probably not no to Zabit, and then not to Zabit. So that was it.
I have to ask: is there a growing sense of frustration because even Ali calling Connor a prostitute, which I think crossed the line last week. He has taken shots at your coach John Kavanaugh. Is there a growing sense of like did you want to beat this guy up because that's your closest way to shut him up? Is there like a growing sense of frustration amongst the team about things that he's saying about you and other fighters?
I'm way smarter than that. There's no way I would take out my frustration for some dope of a manager that talks a lot of crap on a fighter. I know Zabit has nothing to do with that. He is just working with this guy at the moment, and in the future he might not be working with him anymore. There's plenty of guys that have been working with Abdulaziz, and they don't anymore. So of course I wouldn't take out my frustration. My frustration is with the manager himself, and I already explained why my frustration is there, because he is not the guy fighting, so he should probably, stay away from all that. I mean, let's just remember that ridiculous time when he took Frankie Edgar's Twitter and started tweeting pretending to be Frankie. I mean, seriously, come on now. This guy is a clown. He is not a fucking manager. I wouldn't want that guy to represent me. I literally wouldn't let this guy represent my fucking toenail. seriously, because if he is your manager and he represents you, that's a reflection on you as a fighter. And if you let this guy do that sort of fucking comedy stuff that he puts out there, like he did with Frankie's Twitter before, I mean, come on now, we cannot take this guy seriously. This is not a guy we need in this sport. Maybe in the 1993 when UFC first started, he could have been someone's manager, but now this is the age where you need a real businessman to handle your business.
And Artem,
And
do me a
he's
favor.
not one of them.
Do me a favor. Put your camera down a little bit. I want to see your full. There we go. There's the full face. I just want to see your full face. All right, so you have this opportunity, and when I found out about it, I said this is brilliant because there's a huge Russian population in Brooklyn, as you may know, and that's why it's brilliant that Khabib is on the card. And there's also a huge Irish population in New York, as you may know. And so I thought this is a great booking. And then when I put out the news, everyone, responded saying, "Oh, of course, this just ensures that Conor is coming to UFC 223." And I totally didn't think of that until the people on the internet reminded me that, of course, the lightweight title and all that. You being on the card, does it ensure that Conor will be there?
Well, it certainly probably helps the situation for sure. I mean, this is a matchup that I'm sure they would like Conor present during that matchup. I mean, they've done that with Aldo Mendes in Brazil, so I'm sure they would love to see Conor in there. I mean, there's a big anticipation for Conor fighting either one of those two guys already. So him being present at the event as they throw down for that belt, of course, that's going to only add to it. So I'm sure UFC probably would love him to be there.
Has he told you if he's coming or not?
It's too soon to say. Conor
Yeah.
is a busy man. He's a businessman. There's many things that need to be taken care of. So but I always know, I always have his support. I know if there's an opportunity, if he doesn't have to be elsewhere, then he will be there supporting me.
How close were you and the team to going to Vegas this Saturday to fight for a 165-pound title against Frankie Edgar?
Very close. Very,
Really?
very close.
It was real.
It was very, very close. It was real. 100%. Conor was ready to go. That was it. Like we were just, gathering the troops already, ready to go. We were planning what do we do? We just fly off to Vegas straight away to, do this short little camp, or, plans were in place and everything. Everyone was ready to go. Conor wanted to fight. I was, talking to him the whole time, and he was ready to go and
Wow.
show the world what he can do.
How so why didn't it happen, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, I think this was UFC weren't really all for it, because I mean, it was really short notice, wouldn't have given enough time to kind of build the fight, and so from what I understood, that was the main kind of reason for it.
That's too bad. I want to ask you. There was a picture that was tweeted. You were, and correct me if I'm wrong. Were you at the Kremlin? Were you working as security for for the Russian government? Can you explain? This was like a couple of months ago. You were there for several weeks, right? Oh, we may have lost them. Is this what happens when you ask about? Is this like the elections? I think we lost Artem, but we'll get him back. Let's reconnect. The timing is unfortunate on that one, but we will get him back. And how about that revelation that Conor did in fact offer his services? I call hogwash to the idea that on a week or so notice, it is not enough time. This would be more than a week. This would be almost a month. But even if it is a week, like we learned, the one thing we learned at UFC 196 with Nate Diaz, that you don't need all that much time to promote a Conor McGregor fight. And a Conor McGregor fight does not suffer pay-per-view buy rate wise if a fight is thrown together on short notice. That's the one thing we learned with that. I mean, that fight was done on 10 days notice, and it, broke all kinds of records. Is Artem back? There he is.
Yeah, I'm back.
Artem, I ask you about the Russian government and you disappear. What's up with that? That's crazy.
I know. I think that conspiracy theorists are gonna go crazy.
I know, it's great. What was that? Can you tell us?
So basically, I was invited into Kremlin to train the it says forces. It's the people that protect the president. It's called the FSO. This
Okay.
department is called FSO. So this is those people. I mean, they're already trained guys, but they just wanted to get a little bit training in with me. They're big fans of MMA. They do a lot of training themselves. So that was just that. I just came there for one day to train them and kind of spend some time with them, and it was an absolute honor. And I was absolutely delighted to be invited there, and I would absolutely do it again if I was asked.
Did you meet Putin himself?
No, unfortunately, I did not meet the president himself. I mean, this is certainly on my wish list.
Yeah.
I really hope that one day I get to meet him, but I didn't get to meet him at that moment. No.
Was that your first time in the Kremlin?
Yes, it was my first time ever. I mean, I remember being there as a kid, just kind of looking onto it and thinking that it would be nice to go in there one day. But it was really really, as a Russian person growing up, you see Kremlin. Kremlin is a very very special place
Yeah.
for any Russian. So for me to actually go in there and do all that, and it was absolutely incredible. I was speechless.
Was it nicer than you envisioned it being?
It was very, very nice. I was very impressed with what the Kremlin looked like on the inside.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't even know what I envisioned. I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew Kremlin. This is the place. This is the most important place for any Russian, I guess. And I didn't really know what to expect. But when I did see it, I was very impressed.
Two last things, Artem, before we go. Are you doing anything different in this camp? Have you learned any lessons from the losing streak? Do you feel like you need to change anything? And if so, is there anything you could tell us about what you're doing differently to prepare for this fight?
Yeah, maybe I continue working on my takedown defense. I mean, I did feel in the Philly fight it was good before I got kicked in the head. He tried a few takedowns and I was able to stop them. My reaction was good. My hips were strong. I felt good. But obviously, after I had that kick, my mind wasn't there 100%. I guess I was a little bit, I guess you could not confuse, but just not 100% there. So he was able to take me down then. But I still worked a lot. I continue working a lot more on my takedown defense. I've sharpened up, got some detail with my submission because I was able to go for that leg lock on him multiple times, but I just wasn't able to finish. So recently we had Craig Jones over, who is one of the best grapplers in the world
Hmm.
and a leg lock specialist himself. So it was great to get those little detail that I was missing. So certainly my submission game has gone to a different level now. My takedown defense, and perhaps maybe I'll be a little bit tighter in my striking this time around. I don't want to get kicked in the head one more time.
Yes.
This was my second time by the way eating head kick. But still, I've never been knocked out, my friend. Yes, I did get kicked in the head, but this Russian Irish head, you do nothing to it.
Yes, they call you the hammer for more reasons than one. It's hard to knock down a hammer as well as the power that comes from the hammer. Do you feel that it's do or die though? This fight, is it a must win to stick around?
Yeah, yeah, but it's certain to stick around. Yes, definitely. That's definitely. Um, it's a must win. Yeah, that's the way I want to approach it. To be honest, that's the way I want to approach the fight because I feel you should approach like every fight this way anyway,
Sure,
because that's what makes it an exciting fight.
sure,
If it's
sure.
do or die, then you know what I mean. There's no way back. There's no way out. You can only win. That's the way I approach my whole life. I have to succeed in this life, no matter what. It doesn't matter what I'm going to be doing, but I have to succeed, and I will succeed.
By the way, do you see the things on Twitter like people calling you the goat and all the gifts and things like that? Like the reaction, anything that you do is sometimes hilarious, but you do have a passionate following. Whether it's sometimes in jest, tongue in cheek, people react to you, and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Do you see this stuff, and if so, how do you receive it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I see it. Of course, I mean, I don't really mind. I love banter. I love laughing. Sense of humor is a very, very important thing. Like, I'm sure I spoke to you before, and I said, I've had. I don't want to moan about or complain about my life, but there's been many difficult moments in my life, and sometimes, laughter is all you have left.
Mm,
And if you kind of smile a little bit, I'm able to kind of laugh a little bit. Things don't seem that bad, and you're able to carry on and continue and keep pushing forward. So it's no big deal, to me. It's fine. I'm here to prove what I'm worth. And I think I've done that a little bit in certain moments, but I know I have a lot more to prove and a lot more to show of what I can do. And I think I will get my opportunity.
Artem, you're the man. It's always great to catch up with you. I wish you nothing but the best on April 7th. Can't wait to be there. It's a great card for you to be on in Brooklyn with the Russian and Irish population. Very happy that you're sticking around. I did not think that they should cut you after those two losses. We've seen way worse, and those are two quality opponents. So kudos to you. Best of luck in training. Thank you for the time as always. And glad that you were able to come back on the show. There was a time when you were so popular, you were turning me down. I remember that. You remember that back in the summer? You were so popular that you had to actually turn me down. But I'm glad that we're friends again, and you made some time for me, Artem.
Thanks for having me, Ariel. It was
It's a
great to
pleasure.
be here again.